6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe and read by Geethanjali Ramanayaka. The headlines. The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna emphasizes it's capable of contesting any election alone. The Samagi Jana Balawege says the government will be defeated next year. MP Yadamini Gunawardena says that a national fuel and transport policy should be introduced. Foreign news, jihadist militants attack a popular hotel in Mogadishu. Sports, football, Brazil says high number of fouls on Neymar has to be stopped. News in detail. General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Sagara Karewasam says his party is capable of contesting any election alone. He said assistance of former Minister Basil Rajapaksa is essential for the future activities of the party. During a media briefing today, he said Mr. Rajapaksa is holding discussions with all groups about the future activities of the party. Parliamentarian S.M. Marikar says the annual general meeting of the Samagi Jana Balawege, which will be held next month, is not a struggle by the opposition leader, as mentioned by State Minister Diana Gamage. He said the people's unity will be shown to the government, which is without a people's mandate on that day. The Minister of Highways has not been able to manage not only foreign loans, but also aid. He said the government will be defeated next year. MP Yadamini Gunawardena says that a national fuel and transport policy should be introduced. He said in Parliament today that entire transport service should be examined. The Railways Department must be uplifted and public transport should be made attractive to the people. He said steps should be taken to operate trains using solar power next year. All Ireland Egg Traders Association says there is a mafia on selling eggs in the country. General Secretary of the association Anurasiri Marasinghe said they can sell an egg for 30 rupees soon if the government gives its support. He said various associations had spread falsehood about the production cost of an egg. The Court of Appeal today directed the Controller General of Immigration and Emigration to submit documents relating to the citizenship of State Minister Diana Gamage. Court of Appeal, two judge bench comprising Justices Sobhita Rajakarna and Dhammika Ganepola, directed the petitioner and Attorney General to file a motion with the required documentation. The Court of Appeal issued notices on State Minister Diana Gamage and other respondents returnable on December 12th. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The Colombo High Court today ordered to release 3 accused, including popular Sri Lankan racing driver Dilantha Malagamwa, in connection with an indictment filed against them for allegedly defrauding a Japanese national to the tune of $600,000 in 2008. High Court Judge Namal Balale ordered to release 3 accused from the case, taking into account the failure of the Japanese national to attend court for the last 7 years. And that ends local news for now.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The United Arab Emirates says it's interested in investing in renewable energy projects in Sri Lanka. Ambassador of United Arab Republic, Khalid Nazar Al-Ameri, said there's immense potential for UAE investments in energy sector in Sri Lanka. He said this when he called on Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena at the Prime Minister's office to discuss bilateral cooperation and investments. The Prime Minister said UAE has the opportunities now to invest in new sectors such as agriculture and industrial sectors in addition to the renewable energy sector. And that ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Life is brought to you by
Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission.
In Watchlight, consultant psychiatrist Dr. Rumi Rubin says recent studies have shown an evident link between the use of the ice drugs, also known as crystal methamphetamine, and increased likeliness of developing mental illnesses. Speaking at a press conference in Colombo, Dr. Rubin said there are networks dedicated to encourage the use of ice amongst the children and the youth. And that came to you in Watchlight.
If you are following NVQ or non-NVQ vocational training course, ensure that your name is registered with the Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission by the institution. Visit the website www.tvec.gov.lk and link to candidate search and enter in your national ID number in the trainee/certificate search. Please note that this is a legal requirement. This is a message from Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
We give you the strength to rise higher and higher.
Never step back, but always march forward.
Empowering you to reach greater heights. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
World News headlines. Jihadist militants attack a popular hotel in Mogadishu. Protests against China's strict COVID measures spread to some of its biggest cities. And Prince William and Kate visit the US for climate change prize. At least 4 people have been killed and dozens more injured after jihadist militants attacked a popular hotel in the Somalia capital of Mogadishu. Witnesses have told media of hearing multiple explosions and heavy gunfire coming from the Villa Rose Hotel near the presidential palace. Security forces are battling to regain control of the buildings after it was stormed on Sunday evening. The Al-Qaeda-affiliated group Al-Shabaab has said it carried out the attack. Police in China have been detaining people as protests against the country's strict COVID measures spread to some of its biggest cities. The demonstrations are an unprecedented challenge to President Xi Jinping, with some calling him to resign. Police in Shanghai detained several people on Monday at a site that has seen protests 2 nights in a row. A long line of blue barriers has also been placed along the road where demonstrators had gathered. In their first international trip since becoming Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Catherine will visit the US this week for an environmental prize. The royal couple will show their support for finding ways to tackle climate change at the 2nd annual Earth Shot Prize Awards in Boston. Billie Eilish, Annie Lennox, Ellie Goulding, and Chloe X. Halle are among the performers taking part. Environmental campaigners say David Attenborough will also be contributing. Back to the headlines of the world news. Jihadist militants attack a popular hotel in Mogadishu. Protests against China's strict COVID measures spread to some of its biggest cities. And Prince William and Kate visit US for climate change prize. That ends World News.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
Amidst all challenges, we will rally around you and advance.
In the face of hardships, let's stand strong together.
Empowering you to reach greater heights. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
On to development news. Minister of Urban Development and Housing Prasanna Rantunga stated that steps have been taken to implement the development process of the country through the partnership of public and private sectors in the future. The minister said this when members of the parliament inquired regarding the matter at the Ministerial Consultative Committee on Urban Development and Housing held under the chairmanship recently. The minister further said that since there are private investors in the country who are willing to spend on development programs, development activities can be done through the partnership of public and private sectors without using money from the treasury. And that came to you in development news. And on to sports news now. First, cricket. Reports said 3 Sri Lankan cricketers, Kasun Rajda, Charit Asalanka and Pathum Nisanka, who are part of the Sri Lankan team that is playing against Afghanistan in Pallekele Kandy, got married today in 3 separate ceremonies held in Colombo. The players were scheduled to return to the squad by this evening to prepare for the next match against Afghanistan after the ceremonies. Football news. Brazil head coach Tite says the high number of fouls on Neymar has to be stopped after the forward was injured in their group stage win over Serbia. Neymar appeared to be in tears on the bench after being substituted in the 80th minute with a sprained ankle. The 30-year-old was on receiving end of a heavy tackle from Nikola Milenkovic in the 2-0 win on Thursday. Professional footballers in Scotland are to be banned from heading the ball in training the day before and the day after a game. Clubs are also being told to limit exercises that involve repetitive heading to one session per week. The new guidelines come after Glasgow University research showed that former footballers were 3.5 times more likely to die from brain disease. And that came to you in sports news.
The fastest way to earn the highest interest, an interest rate of 22% in 4 months. NSB, the safest place for your money.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
HNB partnered with the Sri Lanka Agripreneurs Forum to support small and medium-sized enterprises in expanding their agriculture services via technology-based solutions. The collaboration will offer SMEs access to agro forums on technology-based solutions such as mechanization and innovative harvesting and post-harvesting. And that was Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The fastest way to earn the highest interest, an interest rate of 22% in 4 months. NSB, the safest place for your money.
Economic News, courtesy of
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
The central bank expressed that Sri Lanka could continue to manage its imports with what it earns from exports and remittances in the interim until the International Monetary Fund deal comes through. Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe expressed confidence in managing the situation without letting it to deteriorate. And that was Economic News.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
On to the weather report. The Met Department says showers or thundershowers will occur at several places in the Uva and Sabaragamu provinces and in the Galle and Matra and also in the Nuwara district. And showers or thundershowers may occur at a few places in the Western province and in the Kandy district during the night. Mainly fair weather will prevail elsewhere over the country. Misty conditions can be expected in the Sabaragamu, Central and the Uva province and in the Galle and Matra district during the morning. And that was the weather report. And before we conclude this news broadcast, the headlines once again. Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna emphasizes it's capable of contesting any election alone. Samagi Janabalvege says the government will be defeated next year. MP Yadamini Gunawardena says that a national fuel and transport policy should be introduced. Foreign news, jihadist militants attack a popular hotel in Mogadishu. Sports football, Brazil says the high number of fouls on Neymar has to be stopped. And with that we end this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.